Got the Fiji on E. You know, when you be in the gym a lot, they always ask you what kind of water you drink. And I always tell them my favorite one is from out here in the Philly area anyway, it's Wawa. And they sell the Waikea water bottle. Y'all probably saw me with that in past streams, but I try my best if I can to avoid plastic, but when you travel a lot, um plastic is kind of the thing. So I try and look for a stronger plastic, BPA free and all that stuff like that. Yo, Mike Carter, what's going on? But I always tell people at the very least, look for the parts per million on the back. I don't know if you guys can see that, but right here, it'll say like magnesium and silica and all that stuff like that. At the very least, I look for those in the water. But depending on what places are nearby, might not be able to get the one you want. Now, I'll show you one a lot of people I know drink. I'm not a big fan of it for general purposes, but I mean, I guess if it's good, it's good. But it's this one, Essential. I've never been a big fan of it, but if I can't get any of the ones I want, it'll be the next one I grab. And I guess it's because of the pH. But seeing 9.5 pH is not really, ultra impressive to me. And that's only because we know that the body has a neutral zone. If it goes too alkaline, it's going to do things to lower the number. If it's too acid, it's going to do things to raise the number, like buffer it with bicarbonates and calcium and things like that. But essentially, even though it has the 9.5, if you look on the back, there's no like minerals and parts per million. It's just re-added minerals like in combination form, like magnesium sulfate, calcium chloride. It says electrolytes for taste. And I don't really like to get too much into heavy sciences when it comes to water. And if we're talking science, cool, but in general, the I'm just looking for parts per million and magnesium, silica, sodium, potassium. I'm looking for things like that, not recombined minerals and stuff like that. So, and if you can get glass, of course, like I said. But this is what they had, so not my preferred water. I always like the white Kia bottle, the blue bottle you guys see me drink sometimes. So that's the favorite one. Now, because I have this live stream cannot stretch for an hour. I guess I should get right to the point. What brought up this live stream was I was in the gym talking today, and we get into a lot of conversations about reality versus consciousness. Those who are conscious, what the absolute is, meaning who we actually are as beings, who we actually are, what we are actually capable of. And it stirs up a lot of like strong arguments and stuff when we get into those conversations. And the reason why it does is because it's almost like knowing the truth. One of the guys in the gym that I talk to, knowing the truth, he always gets into Thanos was going on, Google me in the building. He always wants to talk. He loves talking about consciousness, right? He gets into consciousness and he's like I am. He will express consciousness using Christian language, meaning biblical language, which that part's fine with me. However, when you start to, get to know somebody and you start talking to them a lot, you start to choke down on some of their terminology again. And one of the things that I commonly hear the person say that like it makes my ear twitch is when they say things like you know what Christ did and what he did and then we were talking about language today. The first thing that hits my ear wrong is when someone says they talk about God and they say he, no differently than if someone says God and they say she, because to me God represents an energy and a principle, a frequency, right? There is no, it's a problem to me when you assign human attributes to God to the point of limiting what we would call God. Meaning, God would not want you to use those words. Okay, I can dig into the understanding a little bit and see why you would say that. But at the end of the day, God represents energy, represents a principle. And us as human beings being that, smaller pieces of that energy. Because remember, if there's a God who's omnipotent, is everything, is a part of everything, then you have to unassign, meaning remove the attributes that you use for yourself, because you are one of the expressions of God. You are not God itself. You're an expression of God, meaning you're a piece of. To be God itself is to say you're the whole. So I get it if you say we are gods, but if you are saying, if you're talking about the God, whether you make it a human, an entity, a person, whatever it is, you cannot be the all, but you can be a piece of all. Because when something is the all and everything comes from it, it means you have to take from that all to create something else. If let's see, I got like this piece of paper from like Canon or whatever, right? So let's say this piece of paper is the all. If I tear a piece off of this paper and I fling it out into the atmosphere, it's a part of this thing. That's where it came from. But it came from here. So that means all that this is capable of is all that that is capable of. So that is what the way that I look at things. Now, the person that we're talking to in the gym, I'm in there, I'm having a conversation with him. And he's talking, he really gets into it when you talk about the N word. And he immediately says that a person who says the N word cannot be conscious. I naturally disagree with that. I disagree by default, not because of looking at generalities that are out here on Earth. I disagree by default because what I'm trying to explain to him when he gets up in arms over the N word is the frequency because he says the frequency of that word is negative. And I'm like, no, the frequency of that word depends on who's receiving it. Because we assign words, but the person assigns intent. So what happens is in our neighborhoods, especially in black neighborhoods where you come from, someone might use the N word as like what we say as a term of endearment, right? But in terms of endearment, it means that I'm accepting what I'm hearing as a positive receipt from another person. He takes it as, well, no matter how you use the word is negative. It shows that you're still slaves, you're still enslaved. And I'm like, no, not necessarily. Because for those of you who were listening to Black Magic 363 the other day, I was listening to James Smalls. People were asking him about, what about the Boule and how our different, locations have been infiltrated and stuff like that. And it was like, he said, well, there's two things you can do. You can either come up with new idea, or you could fix the one that exists. And I think consciousness is assigned the same way. You can fix that which is there. So they use the N word a certain way. We use the N word a certain way. And people look at it as like, how can you say it? Because we've learned how to take on the energy of the word and convert it into something positive in one way while seeing the negativity in the other way. So I guess based on what generation you're in, you decided not to totally eliminate the word itself. You kind of brought it under subjugation and created a new power behind the word. And that's what I'm trying to explain to him, because he gets so up in arms over the N word. Like, how can you use it? He said it's as bad as using, MFer or the B word or the S word or stuff like that. And I'm like, nah, I was like, not necessarily. I was like, energy is assigned to words or frequencies based on who you're around. How you use these words around one person is not how another person is going to receive them. That's a part of understanding the atmospheres under which you are in. And that's the part I'm trying to explain to him. Now, we also got into a conversation that had to do with the ability of the human body to heal. And that conversation came with me trying to tell him, like, he was talking about the conversation started because he said that guys are getting their erectile dysfunction cured. He originally used that word by getting shocked with like 650, I think it might have been millivolts or volt. I don't think it was volts. It had to be millivolts. 650 like millivolts of shock was causing their thing to suddenly work again. We had another brother around who was saying that after they shocked them, they also put them on a dietary regimen, which is smart. But the thing I was trying to make knowledgeable to the old head was, I was like, you need to be careful with those kinds of things, because I was like, you got to remember, if someone has damaged their ability to get an erection from outside of barring like an accident, right? They just were eating bad and they were destroying their health, and all of a sudden they just can't. They're having an issue with erections. They're having issues in the bedroom. If they receive electric voltage of a shock to make it work, mind you that the electric voltage can open up channels, so it causes the blood vessel to dilate. It's no different than, say, an electronic gated voltage channels that you would see in a cell, right? What happens is, if the electronic voltage hits a certain point for that cell, it causes the cell to open up to allow a thing in. So to say that they're supposedly curing erectile dysfunction by hitting people with voltage, I told him, I was like, that may not be a smart idea. And that's just me knowing what I know about anatomy. If a person is carrying a bunch of chemicals and poisons in their body, and you stimulate that system with voltage to make blood flow into that system, the blood has toxins and poison in it. And the reason the system stopped working is not because the body no longer wants it to work, but because it's shielding it off from allowing toxins to get into one of the most important systems in the body. So you hit it with electrical voltage, and now it's getting up. You're allowing that blood flow in. You're also allowing those toxins in. And the toxins are one of the things that actually causes damage to the system, that makes it so that the blood vessels get destroyed and it no longer works again. And then you wind up with all these other problems with people getting implants and surgery and all kinds of other craziness done to their sex drive. And then he proceeds to go into the, well, the mind can do anything thing, which is to me, it's kind of like, when we're having a scientific argument, that becomes like, to me, internally, it becomes a cop-out argument, because it's like, well, with the mind can do anything. And I was like, no. And I had to slow him down. And I was like, the mind as it stands on earth right now, until you show me someone who has, there is nothing that the mind has ever done to make all of the impurities and imperfections in someone's body instantly go away. No, but with the mind and, through God consciousness, God said that we are this and we are that. I was like, I got you. That is something that we have a hope and a belief for. That's what we have a hope and a belief for. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's what makes you continue to discover and unlock new channels. But as it stands, I don't know anybody, as long as I've been studying health. And I even gave examples. I was like, there was a guy who lost his leg, a story that I read about. He lost his leg and said he's going to work as hard as he can to try and get it back. 10 years later, he died. But when they evaluated him after the 10-year death, they realized that his leg actually grew a couple of inches, like it was on its way to growing back. These are the things that originally I was like, I think human bodies can do it. I'm hoping they can do it. I believe they can do it. We just need to learn how. That story was an example. I have never heard of a story where, let's say you got grays in your hair, little wrinkles in your skin, imperfections in your eyes. You got the melanin spots, you got digestive tract issues. You're not in danger, but your digestive tract ain't perfect. You got a little erectile dysfunction, nothing serious. I have never seen anybody through the power of the mind instantly turn that whole thing over. That's all I was telling him. It turned into a discussion where he was talking to me as a person would if they thought I was saying that it wasn't possible. He said, see, he was like, when you think in the box, then no, these things are not possible. But if you be as Christ and all this, I was like, you're responding as if you're responding to me like I'm thinking in a box. I was like, I'm not talking about things that I have a belief could possibly happen one day. I'm saying that never happened. And I'm saying, if you can show me where it's ever happened, then please do. He said, I can. And then the funny response that always comes was the next thing he said. I can show you where it happened because, see, I'm going to tell you right now. See, it's stories of people over here in India and over here in China and over here and all that. And I'm like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to talk about how there are people over there and possibly here who did it. I got tons of the stories about people who are able to heat themselves up and create fire in their hand. People who are able to use certain chi and certain energy and Reiki abilities where they put their hands over places that might have cysts and tumors and blockages, and the energy causes those things to dissipate. Got that. I understand that. Some people might call it a miracle, which is fine. Miracles are reserved for things we can't explain, that we've never seen before. But there are things that I know have happened already that come across as a miracle that can't be explained. But then there are some things that outright did not happen. Nobody, through the power of their mind, like I'm just going to meditate, and through the power of my mind, their entire body renewed itself instantly. I had this conversation before a few days ago, and I said the only issue with the connection between spirit and body, including the mind, is I cannot reconcile time. Meaning, time seems to always be involved in most things. We're not talking about you have a growth on your skin and somehow you inject a certain amount of energy and the growth goes down. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the consequences of actions. A person has cancer. The doctor says you can't cure the cancer. It's stage 4 and there's nothing you could do about it. You believe there's something you could do about it. You go do things about it. You apply herbs, exercise, prayer, belief, and just general heart that you can do this. And that works. That's different. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that instantaneous stuff that it seemed like he was talking about. And I'm saying that there are no stories of that. That's what I was trying to tell him. So I wanted to bring that part up. I like to stress how important it is, number one, as always, to exercise, because what exercising does is it not only does it apply pressure to the body to tell the body what kind of pressures are in the atmosphere, it speeds up the channels that causes things to heal themselves. Why? Because it's blood related. So, and I like to use high blood pressure as an example. If there is a difference between this liquid and this liquid, right? This is thicker. This is thinner. There has to be in blood a certain amount of thickness because there are proteins inside the blood that helps carry things through it. So it makes sense for it to be thicker than just plain water. So there's mineral, there's albumin and all kinds of stuff inside the blood, right? So you have those things in there. And then you have the systems that tell the body whether something is in it to make the blood pressure have to go up or down. It's a what's the term we like to use? You could say self-balancing mechanism, push-pull force, yin yang, whatever it is that you want to call it. But blood pressure goes up because of two things: an oxygen requirement, which you can equate to electricity, magnetism, light, those things. There's a requirement for oxygen. Big dog was good. There is a requirement for oxygen, or there is a poison that must be removed from the system. Whenever let's take some examples. You get into a stressful situation. That fight or flight kicks in, right? You get that strong, like you're holding your brakes because you're about to slide into another car. So it's making your heart pound. You're getting that fight or flight response, or someone's giving you the cue that it's time to fight, right? Fight or flight response. The reason why the heart starts beating and the pressure goes up is because the body is starting to give you the capacity to utilize more physical action. In order to carry stronger physical action, more electricity, aka more electricity, is required. So it will raise the blood pressure, meaning pump the blood faster. Why? Because obviously if the blood's pumping faster and the heart rate goes up, you're going to breathe faster. Why? Because you're pumping oxygen through the system. Hence, you're pumping electrons through the system, which means the iron inside your blood is gathering the electricity to power the body. When oxygen slows down, there's less power coming in. So by breathing faster and the heart beating faster, raising the blood pressure, meaning the ability to push the blood all the way through your system faster, means you get faster turnover. Turnover of what? Oxygen comes in, electrons get pulled, which what we call deoxygenates what you're receiving. So you have oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood. So it's kind of like saying we got the oxygen with the electrons taken out. The blood comes through with electrons and protons. Electrons get taken out, protons flow through. That's deoxygenated blood. So when that blood makes it through, you breathe out CO2. Okay? When you breathe faster, breathe deeper, you take in more oxygen, plus it's moving faster because the blood pressure is higher. So if I'm in fight or flight, in order to throw punches faster, to run faster, to push stronger, that requires a higher oxygen load because it requires more electricity for a harder push, for a faster and stronger punch, for faster and stronger legs to run, for deeper breathing. That requires more oxygen, so the blood pressure must be high. The mineral content being used must be higher. When a person has poisons in their body, which is why when you eat food and your body starts to digest it, and then it gets a recognition of what's in that food and there's poisons in it, you're going to get a blood raising response later on once the body catches up to it. Why? Because if the poisons sit in certain places too long, they destroy the areas that they're touching. So in order to get the least amount of damage, we have to get it out of the system faster. And in order to do that, we have to raise the amount of blood pressure, which pulls in more oxygen, which means it's pulling in more electricity to use for what? More power to move things faster, because moving faster is expending more energy over a shorter period of time. Okay, so that's what that's about. Tariq, what's going on? So when you have high blood pressure and the numbers keep getting higher and higher, it's because the amount of pressure your body's putting in to turn over the toxins, meaning to get them out of the system faster, versus the amount of toxins coming in on a regular basis, there has to be a push and pull to meet the median point of demand. If there's a little bit of toxins, you raise the blood pressure a little bit. If there's a lot of toxins, you raise it higher. And you raise it high enough to meet the demand necessary. That's why when the toxins go down, you're exercising, you're eating healthy, you're putting clean things in the body, alkaline substances, you're causing the alkaline substances, which are electrons. You got oxidation happening because of the poisons. Electrons come in, which are antioxidants, to meet up with the protons. When they bind together, they neutralize, which means you stop getting the pinging and destruction. So oxidation means antioxidant, they neutralize each other, and now they can flow smoothly. Okay? So that's a part of bringing in the healthy foods. You're getting the exercise. Exercise causes your blood pressure to go up higher, not because there's toxins in it, but because you're drawing in more oxygen to neutralize the lactic acid. And by artificially pushing up the blood pressure without adding new toxins to the body, you're speeding up the movement of blood through to push the acid, to get rid of that acid buildup. And it's also helping to push the toxins out faster. Toxins come out, pressure comes down. There's less pressure required when there's less work to do. More toxins, you have to eliminate toxins and still live, which requires higher pressure. So when you're laying down in bed, you got a certain blood pressure. As soon as you sit up, your blood pressure goes up. As soon as you stand up, it goes up higher. So what do doctors tell you to do when you come in the hospital? Sit in a chair, sit down, elevate your hands to a neutral position, and relax. Things you don't generally do when you're a moving and working human being. So they're checking for relaxed blood pressure. Like, why are you in such a relaxed position and your number is high? That's one of the ways to detect high blood pressure. You're just in a sitting position, but you have a blood pressure of somebody who's curling like 125 pounds, breathing heavy as hell, trying to curl it. Your heart shouldn't be working that hard if you're just sitting down. So that's the point where we now have to separate the medicated people from the non-medicated people. When the medication comes in, your heart is supposed to be, let's just use their numbers as an example. You're at 120 over 80. And the 120 over 80 is like the average walking around chilling human being with decent, it doesn't seem like there's any toxins. This just seems to be the neutral number. Everything's working well at. You come in and your blood pressure is 189 over 105. And the doctor is like, yo, your heart in a resting position, your heart is working hard as hell. Now, once that happens, the doctor, they'll talk to you and get you a history and find out how long this has been going on. But in general, throughout an entire day, which is why they have it get checked multiple times throughout a day, and then they build it up over time to see what the average is. When the number remains that high, what if you're like, you weigh as much as I do, you're about 200 pounds, and I have you bench 405, you press it 2 times and you get real tired, and I say, now just hold the weight for a whole nother day. And then even though you go to sleep, keep doing that, because I'm gonna keep putting toxins in my body to make you have to work that hard without ever being able to stop. Because if you stop, the toxins will slow down their movement, which means they got more time to burn up the inside of your body, which is the reason why it's bad when your blood pressure slows down when you have toxins in it, because your body's saying that shouldn't sit in there that long. So what happens is the medication comes in, and you got people now who they don't talk to their doctor. They don't know how biochemistry works and how the body works. They just outright want to reject the doctor and the medication, but they don't even understand their body to understand when they actually need it. If the body is sitting there under that much pressure, and it's not supposed to be, because it's not at a neutral point where it can consistently turn itself over and stay healthy, then that's going to cause the heart to get weak. It's going to say, after a while, holding that weight too long, I just don't have the energy to keep it up anymore. Now, your heart is weak, which means the amount of pressure it needs to exert to remove toxins, it physically can't do it. Which means not only are you not getting the proper pressure you need and work from your heart to move out the toxins in, now your heart is weak, and the proper pressure it needs just went down. So you're now getting hit double time. And this is where the second Ezra was going on. And this is where the doctor is now giving you the medication, because they're saying, they can say that they save your life because they know that the heart should not be working that hard for that long period of time, because that's the thing that'll kill you. What they're saying is, okay, if you say, I don't want the medication, don't know your body, and don't stop what you're doing, you'll be dead probably within a few months to a year. because you can't hold blood pressure that high constantly and keep doing the same thing, feeding yourself toxins and increasing the toxin load and stress load and all that stuff like that. You can't do that. So when they give you the medication to take the pressure off the heart so that the heart finally gets a break and says, I get to put this heavy weight down for a while, it keeps the heart strong. The problem is that people who are not really into the body and understand the body very well, the problem with them attacking doctors and medication is they look at the medication and say, I don't want the medication because I know the medication will hurt me. But the doctor knows not as much as you hurting yourself by not taking care of your damn blood pressure. At the very least, they know if they give you the medication, it'll keep your heart in the game. Because once the heart's not in the game's over. So they keep your heart in the game. And some of them are nice enough to try and tell you, change your diet, get you some exercise and stuff like that. When you have very high blood pressure, they have to regulate your exercise. Because remember, it's a stacking thing. There's a certain amount of blood pressure for your body to be normal. When you add toxins, you add an extra workload onto your body. You keep adding toxins over years, the workload gets heavy. Now you're going to add lactic acid and heavy lactic acid from the workout. If you do that, maybe when you're benching at 405, your blood pressure from your body can withstand maybe like 200 over 160, but that's just because it's exerting the force because of the weight you're lifting. But if the pressure's been that high and now you want to exert more force on it, you're sending what would be 200 over 160 to like, let's say now you're like 400 over 320. You're by adding exercise to an already compromised body that's already using all its resources just to keep the toxin load down and keep things in check, you're hyper like stimulating your blood pressure beyond normal limits. And that's why they have to lower your exercise capacity when you're on blood pressure medications, because they have to make sure you don't crack a certain threshold because the body's already under pressure. And getting medication to make your numbers go down you can't do that, because what's going to happen is you take the meds to bring the numbers down, but the toxins are still in the system and they're coming out slower now because the pressure's not as high. So what's going to happen is that the toxin load's in there. Now you're going to work out and you're going to push the pressure up, which is already below where it's supposed to be. So what happens is you push the pressure up from doing the exercise. And yes, you're helping move the toxins out faster, but you're like hyper pushing the toxins unbalanced. It's kind of hard to explain, but you're pushing a hypertoxin load with an unbalanced blood pressure, and that's sure to cause some type of damage, to the point where it's like you might shove toxins into an area it shouldn't be in because your body's not regulating it. You actually are taking a medication that's just shutting off certain systems, which is an imbalance. So that's why the doctor's got to be careful on the workout end when you're doing that, when you're taking the medication. So the key is you lower the toxins, the medication has to come down. Because remember, what they do is they look at your average blood pressure and they say, hit them with a certain amount of medication to back the system off to make the numbers fall into a normal range of work that the heart should get. If they give you the medication and your blood pressure, let's say they give you enough blood pressure medication to go from 160 over 100 and it brings it down to 120 over 80. So you knock your numbers down artificially. Then you start doing workouts and eating healthier, and the numbers start to drop. Now, remember, if your medication takes you to 120 over 80 because you were at 160 over 100, working out over time is now going to cause the resting blood pressure from the medication to go down. So now you're hitting something like 110 over 70, and then you're hitting 100 over 60. You're getting too low, and your doctor keeps an eye on you for that reason. Like, they start to see you and be like, been exercising, been eating healthy lately? Yeah, because I'm looking at your blood pressure. Your blood pressure's a little low. It looked like we need to back off the medication some to get your number to fall normal. See, now they're not dragging the numbers down. They're backing off the medication to bring the number up. That means you're doing something right. If they try and keep you on the medication at that amount, it wouldn't make any sense, because think about it. If they say, oh, good, your blood pressure is now 100 over 60, you must be exercising and eating. So that means, all right, well, I ain't going to worry about the medication. Just keep doing what you're doing. Once that blood pressure gets too low, your ass is going, you're going to pass the hell out. Not supposed to be that low. It's to the point of it's just not exerting enough force to do regular bodily functions. So you kind of put the doctor in a position to have to back off the medication. Hence why we don't talk about cure, we talk about reversal. Now, again, in the beginning, I was having this conversation in the gym, and he was talking about how the mind can do these things and do that things. I have always maintained that Spirit exceeds physicality. However, physicality must be in position to receive spirit. If the body, the mind, the spirit is prepared for a certain action, then you can start pushing for that action, and all of your body's channels and everything are open to build itself towards doing it. For instance, I'm a jumper. I like to jump. If you guys keep an eye on my Instagram, I'm gonna put a picture up of me deadlifting the 500 today. So you guys can see it. I had it on Instagram before, but this time we got a more angled view so you can kind of see the plates. But you want to you want to be able to have, like, if you ever be in a position where, let's say you've been working out for a while and you've been wanting to bench press 225. You're on 215 and you've been trying to get 225 and you get a couple inches off your chest and you can't. And then one day you walk in and you super excited. You're excited to the point where you think about something so much you feel this surge of energy. It's a little different than stress. It's almost the feeling you get when you go real hard at a competition that you really want to win and you win it. And you get this overwhelming, exciting feeling, which is a little different. That's like a euphoric feeling. Lots of dopamine, all that stuff. It's not the same as stress. When that energy comes over you, it allows your blood vessels to dilate and send a hyper amount of electricity into a certain part of your brain in order to induce a certain electrical charge to make a certain thing in your body happen. So this is where the mind comes in. So how developed your body is determines how much of that surge of electricity can get through. Remember, electrically active tissues that make up our body: piezoelectric bone, piezochromatic pineal gland, electricity, water. We know electricity moves faster in water. So if we develop our bodies to have clear channels so the water can get through clean, so that the electric conductivity can happen, and then we're doing the exercise so we can build the tissues to handle more electricity. Now, when I have that surge, that feeling come over me, I can imbue my tissues with far more electrical charge, which means I can power my body and my brain to respond stronger. As I practice these things, the body gets better and better after it. So when the body gets better and better at doing something, it's because you're building up the crystalline structure within the bone, which means that can handle more electricity. And then the muscles and the tissues of the muscles are getting stronger. You're exercising your mind. And by building these things up, by exercising more, by working more, by applying pressure to the mind, you're building more neuronal networks, which means more channels for electricity to run through. And where there's more channels, you have to develop more tissues to make room for it. And then you're going to wire those tissues with more neural networks. And also, with that bigger crystalline structure in the bone, that means when you strike your body against something, it's going to produce a charge that won't hurt because you have the crystalline structure built up to handle the charge. So, as an example, I was going to use to the guy I was talking to in the gym. Let's talk about something on the crux of what you would call damn near impossibility, but you've seen it before. Someone running across water. When you first start out doing your leg exercises, most people are heavy footed. When they jump onto like something like a pad, you can hear the slam like clean onto the pad, which shows you that, man, they're really rattling their bones. And it shows that they're not soft on their toes, because you have to remember the impact that you make induces an electric charge. Also, when you make a move, you're inducing another type of electro charge to make that movement. Like when you kind of dip down to make a jump, there's an electric charge that's going to come from the pressure you push against the ground. Now, if you can withstand more electric charge, you can also apply more electric charge. So by developing the body, that which the spirit needs will slowly start to climb into focus. Having the picture in your mind helps because you're telling your body what direction you're going into by creating the picture. Placebo effect type stuff, right? For those of you who study that. George in the building. Yeah, there should be a discussion. This is a great discussion because of the different aspects of spirit versus mind and morality and physicality come in. Me, I don't see things as one. Like to me, and my wife's in the building. She knows I say this all the time. George was talking. We were talking about it earlier. We know this. If all is mind, mind is the reason for things existing. The spirit is something that can be imbued with light to create a bit of a soul, so to speak, right? You cannot call everything spirit any more than you could call everything physicality in a physical world. The physical world is here. The physical world is here because a spirit exists, and the spirit needs a vessel to inhabit. So the spirit, what the spirit is doing by inhabiting the vessel, is it's taking something of mind to make it physical. So that which is spirit can be experienced as flesh. Once the flesh experiences the thing, that becomes knowledge and wisdom and understanding. So that in the dream state and in the afterlife state, there are now shapes of light that have been imbued into your body that now can stand alone outside the vessel. Now I'm talking half of the science and half of this is what I believe, because you got to be one who believes in, kind of like the radio signal example. If if you break or unplug the radio, does that mean that the signal doesn't exist? The radio is the body that inhabits and applies that physical nature of what's coming into it. But there's still a signal out there. Because remember, when you coil up copper, the copper is grabbing every signal around. That's the reason it can happen. It can grab a signal. The signal is intelligible, meaning I can't understand the signal. Now I need something to attune the signal. To attune the signal. Y'all understand? For those who understand my esoteric stuff, attune. Does it make sense? In the beginning, there was the word. Attune is a frequency. It's a vibration. And if it's a vibration and a tune, it's a type of light, whether you can see it or not, which means it's a type of sound. And if I make it stronger, it can become visible light. You see the connection? So it makes a tune. It makes a sound. We have organs in our body and we are an organism, because what do organs do? They play sounds. See the connection? So spirit can inhabit body, so body can have experience, so that spirit can now know that which is physical, the actual embodiment of the physical existence. So in my head, I can see it. In my head, I can see ice cream. But until the body actually tastes it, the spirit, aka partially the soul, will not truly understand what it is being experienced. So the two work together. The limit of the body is the fact that it cannot manifest things without the spirit. The limit of the spirit is it cannot interface and truly understand what an experience is physically without a body. So they work in tandem with one another. Walking around just saying that there's spirit and there's mind does nothing without a body to manifest it. Because then what will be the point in having a body? If we can have everything stand alone without spirit, without mind, then don't even talk about a body. But because we have a body, in order so that that which we call God can experience the physical form of a thing, that's where the body comes in. So you cannot talk about spirit and mind and ignore what the body can do. The body's limit is the channels must be clear to receive, and it must work to develop the ability to encompass that which the spirit or the mind is asking for. That is what I am saying. That is why I'm saying it's hard to get something to instantly happen with the body, barring some things. There are some things, like obviously, I can, if we want to call it that, I can instantly blink my eye. So I'm not talking about common things. I'm talking about things like you have stage 4 cancer and it suddenly disappears and nobody knows why. Is that possible? Yes, I believe it's possible. Why? Because mind and spirit exist, and that's the thing that contemplates what it wants. That's where belief comes from. That's where faith comes in. But the body has to do the work. Now, sometimes we do the work and we don't know how. That's what we call a miracle. Now we have to investigate the fact that we have seen something happen, but none of it would have happened if we didn't first search the spirit, search the mind, create within the mind, and then begin to try and manifest. And then eventually we see the manifestation. You see what I mean? There has to be, I know you have, yes, I do know you have stuff to say about this, but how, I love to hear how different people put it together. But the part that I like to make plain is that body and spirit need each other for the physical existence. Spirit alone without a physical manifestation does nothing for physical manifestation. Now, you want to talk spiritual things being done with spiritual things, that's totally different, because you're talking about a problem in the spirit that must be handled within the spirit. But in the physical existence, something physical must happen for the physical body to change. It's not just spirit, because you got to remember, you use mind to manifest from the spirit, meaning you create within the spiritual realm, but you manifest within the physical realm. So the spirit alone doesn't do it. The body must be capable of receiving it, and you can block the body from receiving it. That's what I'm saying. So if The tissue in your body is dead. It is not electrically conductive. You can't send electricity through it unless you first make that tissue alive. You can claim spirit and mind all you want. There must be proper things available for electricity to run through it. Electricity does not run through an insulator. Because remember, just because a human person inhabits spirit does not mean nature is not spiritual. And you know damn well, if I told you to run electricity through a perfect insulator, that shit's not going to happen no matter how much thought, spirit, and mind you put into it. It is an insulator. It won't work. You have to change the insulator to something conductive, meaning a physical thing must happen for it to work. I am not talking about things that are impossible. I'm talking about in order to make spiritual things impossible, the physical grounds must be set for it to happen. Meaning, stop trying to cop out by acting like I can just be egotistical and ignore my body and just say I'm gonna go full spirit and make this whole thing work. If your body is totally dead, the mind is not. That's the reason you have the ability to be conscious, to manifest something, which means a physical thing is happening here. You see what I mean? Something physical must happen to manifest a physical thing, whether it happens inside of your head or inside of your body's motions. Physicality must happen, meaning mind, body, and spirit must be unified. The body must be ready, the spirit must be ready, and the mind must be willing. You have to put those things together. That's what I'm saying. Now, you want to prove something different? If you tell me what you believe, all I can do is listen. If you tell me what you know, then all you have to do is show it to me. One who is wise can explain something to me that makes it easier for me to see it. So I have no problem with an alternative point of view. I'm not exactly talking about my ability to manifest everything in the world. If I could do that, then I would have an answer to all things. What I'm saying is based on my level of understanding from me, between me and the people I see around me trying to manifest things. What I'm saying to you remains true every time until someone does something different. That is it. That is what it is that I'm saying. Russell Lawrence in the building. Forrest Wilson, would it be like? So I have about if you guys have a concept you want to throw out there, like if there's something that challenges to an extent what I'm saying, which is fine. I got about 5 minutes. I got to be in the school building at 3:15 and it's 3:02. So that gives me about 10 minutes to just run my mouth a little bit. So, and yes, I do agree with my wife. It would be nice to have a panel to have a discussion. We kind of had a discussion about it in the gym earlier, but we didn't get to finish it because it was too busy having people toss around concepts we all understood already. The key was to try and get out of the box of what we already understand. When we're talking about consciousness, manifestation, belief, faith, and possibilities, we're kind of in unison with the fact that we believe if it can be perceived in the mind, it can happen. But I'm one who separates that by understanding that what I said in the beginning of the live stream, reconciling time to the equation is the issue. People have shown that miracles can happen, whether they be they happen quickly or they happen slow. People have shown that miracles can happen. But instantaneous full body restoration, there is no proof of that. Nobody has proof of that. I was told earlier, yes, there's proof, but all they did was give me examples of things that have happened, not full body restoration. One of the consequences of nature is the cycle that nature must go within. If we believe we can break that cycle and have full control over it, have at it. Shoot, that's a part of the belief and the faith side. The belief and faith that we'll have the ability to do that. But then you got to ask yourself, what kind of world must we live in? What kind of unified body of godly thought must we have to do that? Because think about it. If man learns to manipulate weather, what's stopping one man from trying to control it over another? How chaotic is that? Which shows you that there must be that is something beyond. I think those kinds of things, it's kind of like rain dancing back in the day. That is beyond, just one person. That is something that there has to be a unified body of consciousness and thought within the universe, within the body of people in order to make happen. Because otherwise it would be kind of self-destructive to the universe. So there's easy levels of these things of manifestation and there's hard levels. The hard levels are the things where the body and the mind and the spirit of the people must learn to unify and reach certain levels. That's why people said chances are if you get religion, not belief in God and spirit and all those things, religion. Organized religion. People think if you move religion out the way, we'd be so far advanced. I kind of agree, right? He said raise his hand. You don't have to raise your hand in these chat rooms. All you have to do is throw a concept out there. But we can't. I know me and you go hard body on the concepts, but We obviously can't go hard body here. I would have to create something real, like creative, where we have an actual room where people can talk out their thoughts. Because obviously we're not going to text message it on here. But a quick quote or something like that, that's fine. No, I don't want you to. No, I don't want you. That's what I'm saying. I don't want you to type it all because this is like I know that even if the explanation is quick, typing it all is not. So yeah, I guess we'll hold that for like a panel because I think these things are important because there's a part that spirit, soul, and mind actually plays when it comes to the development of the human body. And I tend to not like what was happening in the gym today was it was the cop out argument. It was just saying something, saying just for the sake of saying something exists, but with nothing substantial to back it up. Which I relegate that to your belief system, which is the same as mine. And that's why I said we don't have to argue. Could something be possible? We got to leave the door open for that because otherwise we stop chasing it. But as it stands, until we get there, we have to focus on personal development because we're not a unified body of people out here in the world. When we get our personal development down and everyone's walking in sort of a nature-based sound way, things that are for life, not against life, for the development of self, things not against us. We're not justifying things that harm us like, oh, I'm gonna just get this smoke and alcohol in as in moderation. Like when we get past all of that, then it becomes a new wave, a new unlock of the universe, new things we can be involved in. Because remember, the ancients understood that. They were prepared for when the times came for them to do certain things. You could talk about we're in the age of this and we're in the age of that, but I guarantee you, talk to the deepest of the people out there. Even talk to Red Pill, Blue Pill, talk to my wife, talk to Billy Carson, talk to these different people. They will tell you that a wave can come through and your ass is not ready for it. So therefore, what is supposed to happen for you does not happen. That still exists. So let's not act like because a time wave passes, it's going to make people a certain way. No, if you ain't prepared for it, you're going to get the negative impact, meaning you're not going to get anything, or your ass going to be all over the place. Sunspots happen and stuff like that. You crazy. You crazy. You're not receiving the energy. You ain't properly developed. Your spirit has not helped. Your mind has not helped to groom and work that body. You haven't done the actions to prepare yourself to receive that jump in consciousness, that new standard of mind to manifest new things. Because it goes in order. Spirit is what has, mind contemplates, physicality walks, and therefore a result is had. Now we stack the bank, so to speak. Now there are new things unlocked. Now we start utilizing the things we so-called take for granted, and we can move on to the next thing. But you can't do that. Like I don't want the people try and cop out on this body thing. I can use the spirit and the soul and the mind and these different channels to skip over what I have not prepared my vessel for. And the preparation of vessel is a wise and spiritual thing. That is something that you do. It is a consistent thing. And people want to skip that just because they know something. You can't skip it. Nature works within cycles and times. If you don't fall in line and go with the flow, you're going to have consequences and problems. So you have the physical capability, spiritual capability. You have the ability to use your mind to physically walk out and do things and be consistent, and you choose not to, you don't get the results. Who you gonna blame? Right. Gotta let you call in, look at and got everybody. Mine's hot. Y'all tell me. I guess we should it'll definitely be on a weekend time where everybody don't have to run off somewhere, but I can create a channel out of this. Actually, I could get George to help me with this, but I can do like a live stream where I create a channel where people can jump in and give their perspective on how spirit and mind and physicality gather with one another to do whatever. We know in the ancient martial arts culture, mind, body, spirit together, right? When all three are in unison, you get maximum impact out of what it is you're trying to do. Meaning, if you're trying to quickly achieve a goal within the body, then you unify the mind, body, and spirit. So every time you act, you give maximum effort, which means the maximum speed under which you have the ability to develop will happen. Because let's say, like, we know this with working out. If you BS on your workout, if I'm telling you when you're on the pull down bar, I need you to pull down fast, show me that explosion, and come up slow so that your body learns to gain control over the weight so that those muscle fibers can unify to learn how to control so we can stabilize everything, and you just want to be pumping the weight real fast, that's a difference between 3 and 6 months of development. So you can't tell me there's no truth in the science because it's been tested over ages. And that's where the whole mind, body, spirit thing became from. Look at my deadlift video I'm going to put up pretty soon on my Instagram. You're going to notice that when I do 500, I stand there and I'm looking straight. And you'll see me breathe once, and you'll see me breathe deep twice, and then you'll see me go. The breaths is because the first breath is me seeing it happen in my head. The second breath is me unifying what I saw with my actions and feeling myself pick the weight up easily. The third breath is to unify the three. And I only do that when something is very difficult to lift, meaning I know my body well enough and my mind well enough to know I'm putting myself at the threshold of my capability. So I need all the oxygen and focus I can get so I can draw all intent, meaning all electricity, all focus, all mind into that one motion. So whether I succeed or fail, I know where I stand in totality with no excuses. Nothing laid on the floor. That's what I'm saying. I totally agree with that, V. So you see what she said? Sometimes the miracle is the right informate. You could, I see the way you put ion in there, in format ion. So inside formation of light. Um, well-timed wisdom can bring about the miracle, meaning your ability to connect dots. Wisdom has a lot to do with connecting dots, meaning you've never physically done something before, but by somebody imparting information on you, you just have a thing about you that knows like a very great way of using it. And that unlocks channels and doors sometimes. And it's like, oh, snap, I didn't think, look at that, look at that. How'd you do that? I can tell you how, but it doesn't always lend to method. It doesn't always lend to math and science, right? Sometimes it's like, I was thinking about something and I did these motions because it kind of made sense to me and that happened. But how exactly did you do it? Did you flick a finger this way and do that? I don't know. Like I might be telling you the long way, but these are the steps that I took that made that happen. So I think it's about time we start experimenting because now we know that it can happen. Now we need to figure out how. See, steps are taken. Once we figure out how, everyone starts doing it. And then it becomes the thing we take it for granted. Now, guess what? Y'all gonna start getting curious about the next thing, which means it's time for the spirit to start working again. The creative juices to start flowing, the mind to start contemplating so that what? We can start performing actions again. Some actions produce a fast result, some produce a slow result. But either way, if our mind is in tune with the thing we're trying to do, then our concentration, our intent, we're pulling everything that we can encompass within the universe towards that one goal. If it's enough to make it happen, it will happen. If it's not enough, keep trying. Maybe it is something that requires a unified body of energy. Because remember, we're all expressions and pieces of God. Trying to make yourself the God means that you can always manifest everything in the universe without ever having someone else attached, which means you might as well live alone and just create everything around yourself that you want. Because you can have an atmosphere around yourself, but you can't make the people around you be who you want them to be. That would be lame of them. I mean, it's not impossible. All you need is some people who want to follow, but I'm just saying that everybody has the ability to have their own will and intent, and there should be no infringement upon that. I guess that's what I mean to say. RTP in the building. Al Campbell, I see you. Or maybe it can be, George, because when we say miracle, not all conditioned minds don't believe in miracles, and some conditioned minds are so damn mathematic that when the miracle finally happens, now they feel like they have an explanation. See, the cop out, that's the part what I meant by say they kind of cop out. Oh man, for at 1 minute, no, that can't happen. Science doesn't say so. Then it happens, and now they have the miracle explanation, right? The cop out. So conditioning is nothing more than somebody else's way of you perceiving the world. Now, if your version of being conditioned, remember we was talking about that earlier, George. We had that guy who was in the gym with us talking to us. If his version, remember what Jim was saying? If this guy's version of conditioned mind prepares him for a thing, then the miracle's not a problem for him. So conditioning can still have you in the proper place to receive, but only certain things. It's the box that Jim was talking about. Your conditioned mind places you in this box. My conditioned mind places me in this box. And at the end of the day, We're all thinking out of boxes. Now, some miracles happen within my box. Am I the reason it happened? Maybe not. Am I the reason it happened? Maybe it is. You never know. But we know that the conditioned mind, if it's in a box and it doesn't think outside of it, it doesn't know its true potential. We did talk about that earlier. But a conditioned mind could be in a conditioned position to receive certain miracles. So we can't exactly displace that completely, but we do know that not having a conditioned mind and opening yourself up and being completely open to the that which the universe can or that which the spirit can create is much greater than the conditioned mind. We can say that. Yeah, I can agree with that. Creative juices are another way of saying that you are going within to receive information. Yes, because I can say that when I'm always saying that, oh, I got a good idea for something, it's an idea, right? It's I'm going within. Um, but I'm also going within like when somebody else does something in front of me. Like somebody does something in front of you and be like, you got this feeling, you like, that just made me think of something. Say it's the juices flowing, right? Excellent try in the building. Yo, guys, people, I told y'all I was on a tight schedule today. We got this conversation kind of baking a little bit. I do want to hit it again later on. I'm a little over the limit of time that I got because this event is going to start in about 15 minutes and I need to be in the building now. So I appreciate y'all. Love y'all for the information, the feedback. We have to do this at another time, and we will get to a point where I'll set up something where we can have people dive in the building and give their points of view about the whole thing. Because again, I'm the guy on the front seat. I started the damn thing. So I'm in the hot seat. I'm the one that you guys are going to, me and maybe anybody else, you're going to poke away at and show me how you feel about these subjects. Because the physical part, I'm pretty sure usually when I explain it, people can get down with it, but it's the beyond physical things, right? That which we call metaphysical, beyond physical, omnipotent things of the mind, things of the spirit. That's where us talking to each other, spitting those ideas out, seeing how we differently feel about these things. This is where the collective mind grows, and we unlock greater things than that which only self can do, because that's a different level. We get the body of people in our communities and on Earth of a certain mindset, a certain level, and then I think the universe makes that body of people privy to more and more. And we haven't quite reached that yet. We're still battling stupid shit like, worrying about fucking money and and racism and stuff like that. And I think as a collective mind, regardless of the possibilities in the universe, there are things that we haven't even contemplated yet because we haven't even gotten the body on a proper conscious accord, so to speak. Okay. All right, people. So let me get at y'all in a little bit. We'll bring this subject back up later. It looks like this is the one that everybody got a perspective that really hits. So we'll get at it in a little bit. All right, love y'all. I'll catch y'all in a little bit.